motor vehicles, works contract, and immovable property are the items in the second category of no double tax benefit that need double clicking. First one is related to motor vehicles. We've seen that motor vehicles and any other form of conveyances, the supplies of these on which taxes are paid fall under negative list. No input tax credit can be paid on taxes paid for purchase of motor vehicles or any other mode of conveyance except for 4 cases. 1. Where the vehicle is used for further taxable supply of such vehicles. 2nd, where it is used for transportation of passengers. 3rd, where it's used for transportation of goods. And 4th, for imparting training, like in driving school. Notice that in all 4 cases, the vehicle is used in furtherance of business for a particular business activity. So if vehicle is used in some constructive purpose other than personal consumption, you can only think of personal consumption if the vehicle does not fall in these 4 categories. And so all these 4 categories add value, and therefore the exceptions are to achieve the underlying principle of input tax credit to incentivize value addition. So those were the exceptions relating to motor vehicle. Next, works contract. Remember that the negative list includes works contract only when it is supplied for construction of immovable property other than plant and machinery. Before we get into what the exception over here is, let's understand the meaning of works contract. Works contract is an agreement which is a mixture of goods as well as services. The person who is contracted to provide works contract services would provide services, of course, and in addition there is transfer of title of goods. So he is providing goods as well as services, and that's why it's called a works contract. GST brings along a huge relief in this particular area. Under the current tax system, works contract is treated as both goods and services. Bills have to be raised separately for goods and services. Documents have to be maintained separately so that each item, whether it's a good or services, can be identified and tax can be levied accordingly. There are huge headaches involved in computing taxes for works contract. GST will do away with all these complications because under GST, works contract is treated as service only. There is no goods element, it is treated just as any other service. This news makes our businessman George feel like he's a superhero with superpowers given by GST. Oh George, don't celebrate so much. Negative list includes works contract when it is supplied for construction of immovable property other than plant and machinery, meaning that input tax credit will not be available on these particular works contract services. But there's an exception. Of course, there's an exception to plant and machinery. Only works contract for immovable property other than plant and machinery, the input tax credit is not allowed. In this also, there's an exception that if such works contract for construction of immovable property is an input service, that is, if a works contractor provides these services to another works contractor, the service receiver is also a works contractor, then on such input service, input tax credit can be claimed. General negative list is for works contract given for construction of immovable property other than plant and machinery. Exception to this, which makes it a positive list, is that if such works contract is an input service for another works contractor, then on such input service, input tax credit will be allowed. Let's move on to the third in our list, which is immovable property on own account. Construction of immovable property on own account. What does this mean? Goods and services which are received by a taxable person. Here our business, George's business of garment store, is our taxable person. If garment store receives these goods and services for construction of immovable property for its own use on his own account, like factory or office building, then So input tax credit would not be allowed on goods and services used for construction of immovable property on his own account, even if such immovable property is used for the furtherance of business. Remember, this immovable property excludes plant and machinery. As you can guess, there's been a lot of lobbying against this provision, but for now it is here to stay. Let's recap the provisions relating to immovable property. Works contract is applicable on a broad category of immovable property, whether on own account or not. Supplies for immovable property is for a specific category where the construction is only on own account. In both these cases, plant and machinery is not included. So, we would want to note two definitions here. One is of construction. The word construction would include reconstruction, renovation, additions or alteration or repairs to the extent that could be capitalized in the books of accounts to that particular immovable property. And second that we'll need to know is plant and machinery. It means apparatus, equipment, machinery, pipelines, telecommunication tower fixed to earth by foundation or structural support. All of these should be used for making outward supply, underlying principle of ITC. And all of these includes the foundation and the structural support for the telecommunication tower, but it does not include the land, building or any other civil structure in this connection.